What is the most ridiculous conspiracy you've heard? Recently I was told by this random woman that I should never have babies, and if I do I should have them strictly at home without medical assistance, because if you give birth at a hospital, they insert a listening chip into the baby so that the government can spy on you via listening chip somewhere in baby. 9/10 on creativity. I have a friend like this. She won't go to the hospital because she thinks they chip everyone who goes in there. She will die of something solvable one day because of this. Tetris is a virus invented by the Russians to turn us Americans into Game Boy zombies with no empathy for one another. Not sure where this came from, but the theory states North Korea is actually a utopian socialist paradise and everything we've seen of it is just capitalist propaganda. Pretty sure it came from North Korea. The Malaysia Airways plane MH370, which disappeared in Indian Ocean, was in fact captured by US military, flown to Ukraine and intentionally crashed, full of already dead people. American courts are actually maritime courts, and you don't have to cooperate with them if you don't want to, because the flag has a gold fringe and the courtroom's bar resembles the bridge of a ship. People actually believe this. You're a crook, Captain Hook. Judge, won't you throw the book at the pirate? That space isn't real, that the moon and everything in space is a government projection, and that rockets go over the horizon when they launch because NASA just dumps them into the ocean. How about the most ridiculous one I made up? You see, in the town I grew up in there were only 2 people who did driver training, and one of them, the cheaper of the 2, was batshit crazy. He was ex-RCMP, and whenever you went out driving with him it would take all of 2 minutes to start taking about all of the insane conspiracy theories that he believed in. He would go on about how the Jews did 9/11 and how the Bilderberg Group built a secret weather control device in Alaska. Literally, every time you got in the car it would be wall-to-wall conspiracy theories. Anyways, while it was kind of weirdly amusing at first, I quickly realized that he seemed to believe any conspiracy theory he came across, so I started making up my own. I started off agreeing with him and then adding small, extra details, gradually working up to more ridiculous stories. Eventually, during my final session, where I had to drive about 40 minutes to the closest city, I basically summarized the entire plot of Metal Gear Solid 2 and he believed every word of it. I'm impressed that you can summarize MGS2 in 40 minutes. My neighbor believed Obama was going to access people's bank accounts and give their money to poor people. She withdrew her money and put in an $80,000 pool because Obama can't dig up a pool. Maybe she was trying to justify an expensive purchase and she really loves pools. All of the moon conspiracies. The moon is a hologram. The moon doesn't exist, etc. There's actually a book out there on Amazon about how the government built the moon. I would link to it, but I really don't want anyone to buy it. My favorite is how we've never seen the dark side of the moon in person, ever, and how that means there's something hidden there. My parents sincerely believe that there's a reason we haven't been on the moon since forever, and that's because there's aliens on the dark side of the moon or some crap like that. I've always had a soft spot in my heart for chemtrails. I tease dark half the time. YWOULDNT, they just spray at night when you can't really see the trails. The only thing more powerful than a government created mind control conspiracy is the Commercial Airline Pilots Union. My favorite is that the real Paul McCartney is dead, and the Paul McCartney we see today is just an imposter. I like to tease my girlfriend with this. The Mandela effect. I remembered something incorrectly, therefore aspects of reality itself must be shifting. The Large Hadron Collider is sometimes blamed. If I remember things one way, and verifiable facts show things another way, then surely it's the verifiable facts that are wrong. Ain't really a conspiracy theory anymore, but my dad was certain Obama was going to enslave all white people as payback for slavery. He might be racist. Roswell. I had a guy telling me that President Truman made a deal with the aliens. All of our technological advances since 1948 have been parceled out to us by an alien race. In exchange they get to take a few humans for experiments. That Malaysian airline, they needed a bunch of people that day. The guy was dead serious. The earth is hollow and people live in it. Harry Potter was written to turn people gay. 99% of moon related theories. Fan theories. Harry Potter was written to turn people gay. It doesn't even mention within the series that its one gay character is gay. If anything, I feel less gay after reading it. Too busy being satanic. I remember hearing whispers about the Pope wanting to kill every member of Knights Templar on a single night. How silly can rumors get? There's a lot, but the most ridiculous is probably flat earth. I had a guy going on about some physics and then asking me how come planes don't fly to space. An honorable mention would be these morons who expose themselves to diseases like fricking Middle Ages peasants because they think vaccination causes autism. There's this guy who lives in the subdivision a few streets down. It's a place that looks nice, so all the people think they are entitled and better. So this guy is a real nut job. He is a big conspiracy theorist. He believes Bigfoot lives in the woods we are surrounded by and is convinced that every camper to ever get lost in them is another victim of Bigfoot. He once showed my mom pictures he took of a plastered foot from Bigfoot that he found in the woods. It was a bear track. He even once tried to get those guys from television who yodel in the woods and then leave to film an episode here. It never happened. I was also once stuck in a car with him and his friend during Halloween. The friend's kid was at the door getting treats and the guy comes up and gets into the car and they start talking. It was cold that night, so I didn't want to get it, and to be honest I really wanted to know what they would talk about. I didn't know at the beginning it was Bigfoot guy who'd gotten into the car. They talked for a good 40 minutes about Bigfoot and then Middle Eastern money and how they need to stock up for when the economy collapses. You know your life has hit a new low whenever Bobo and Mike Moneymaker don't believe in your Bigfoot theory. That the Holocaust didn't happen and that Hitler was a good guy for fighting the Zionist evil. So there are dumbasses out there that think the Holocaust didn't happen and that Hitler was basically a good guy. These same guys also claim that anyone who doesn't follow their woke minds is an ignorant sheep. I personally hate these kinds of people. They make complete fools out of themselves. Chemtrails. Especially today after the Jet Airways episode Intercept into London. I'm betting those pilots were asleep. I know a guy who legitimately thinks the mob runs the world. Like there's some mobster sitting in an Italian restaurant in Brooklyn who could snap his fingers and have anyone dead within the hour. He asked me one day why the mob hasn't put out a hit on Trump. I told him, 1. The mob probably wouldn't want him dead. 2. It's not just that simple to knock off a president like that. 3. They're not some omnipotent organization running the world. Italians can't even run Italy. George W. Bush planted explosives in the World Trade Center, offloaded and executed 4 plane loads of civilians, hit the aircraft, then used holograms to hide surface-to-air missiles on live television before performing a controlled demolition. Also, he has an excuse to go after Saddam Hussein over his daddy. So George Bush walked into the World Trade Center, placed tons of explosives without being recognized, walked out and went to a kiddie class all in good enough time to let the explosion off on live TV. I call fake. Hurricane Sandy was created by the government to get Obama re-elected. He needed to carry New York to win, and if it got messed up in a storm, he could be the hero by coming in to clean it up. With all the hot air politicians like to spew, this seems like the most reasonable. Get them all to stand on a boat in the sea, and then get them to deliver their opinions, thus creating enough hot air to cause a hurricane. Seems legit. A probably schizophrenic man at a CVS told me that all martial arts instructors are part of a worldwide sex abuse conspiracy. He told me to Google martial arts sex abuse. Then he went to the counter and picked up his prescription for flufenazine. Seemed legit. I can't help but wonder if he fixated on that idea because he was abused by a martial arts instructor when he was younger. I really hope not. Either way, I hope that guy's doing okay. Immediately above this post in my feed is a post about Bill Gates sterilizing children with his vaccines. So I'm gonna say that one. The Beatles never existed. John, Paul, George and Ringo were actually a rotating cast of actors musicians, which is why their sound and style changed so much over 8 years. I thought that was the Village People and Kiss. That tsunami that hit Japan was caused by a US launched weather machine as retaliation for Hiroshima, not Pearl Harbor. We were retaliating against Japan for Hiroshima. I was dumbfounded. He even showed me a picture of the weather machine. It was the Voyager probe. This one is gonna sound crazy, but hear me out. In around 2008 I was on YouTube, and on a random video I read a comment by a guy convinced he'd been put under a mind control thing by the government. They'd been forcing him to rob banks and steal corporate computers, letting him get arrested and then releasing him to another nearby town to repeat. He said something about how they'd inserted something into his skull after he'd had a minor car crash where he only needed a little attention, but had gained a perfectly straight scar to the side of his head, in front of his ear, while in hospital. These things he was doing were completely out of character from before he had the crash, and his family was disowning him. He was begging for help. I looked at his channel and he had a few videos of himself out and about talking about it, all taken at different times but dump uploaded the day I was looking. I watched a couple and subscribed to come back later. I remembered his name too, so I could go straight to the URL. The next day I tried to find his account, but there was no sign of it. The URL was dead, but not like a regular banned or deleted YouTube account would be. It was as if it had been wiped from existence. I don't think there's a single conspiracy theory I believe, but this story comes to mind every now and again and weirds me out every single time. That Obama is a Kenyan-born Muslim, the Antichrist who purposely came to destroy America. I mean, seriously, people complained so much about Trump being scrutinized and they pulled that crap for 8 years. SMH. I'm aware that that's not all the right-wingers, but I live with somebody who legitimately believes that. My dad used to believe that, but now he was born in Hawaii, and his real dad is a Black Panther member. His birth certificate was photoshopped, but not for any particular reason, because now my dad believes he was born in the US other than the hospital and the DNC being manipulative. That God put dinosaur skeletons into the ground in order to test their faith. I'm sorry, but if that's true, your God is a complete butthole. Yes, that's blasphemy, and yes, I will say it again. Very few Christians believe that. The ones that do just won't shut up about it. That the Stargate franchise was made as a cover for an actual secret military program where an ancient alien device is used for interplanetary travel to acquire advanced technology. If word ever really got out, then they would say it's just a TV show. Whoever believes this is just a nut. Then the episode Wormhole Stream, where a TV show parodying the events of the Stargate program is made, and thus if word got out they have plausible deniability. This episode was made to further discredit speculation that the show was made to cover up something. A buddy of mine once claimed to me that, get this, North and South Dakota are myths. We didn't talk much after that. That with the Earth's new rotation we will start to see new colors that haven't been seen since the Egyptians ruled the Earth. The idea that the Senate is actually an independent governing body that is in no way related to the House, executive or judicial branches of government. I heard this idea from some guys I was in France with last March. Unfortunately, it's likely they were correct, because the next day I was stabbed 23 times on the floor of the Senate. My parents think that Hillary Clinton and Obama are going to shut off the internet, water, and stop commerce because Trump is about to put them in jail. Friend was convinced that AIDS was made in a military base and purposely spread to eradicate people. I didn't know how to respond. That NASA sent a probe to Saturn's moon, Titan, loaded with uranium in order to detonate the uranium, which would destroy Titan and open up a wormhole which would allow George Bush and his cabinet to escape the dying Earth and travel to another point in the universe. The Donald Trump campaign was invented by the New World Order to make Hillary Clinton more palatable to the masses. Guess the joke's on them. There's a few. I'm from a place with tons of conspiracy theory, aliens, crystals type stuff. That Sherry Papini case that was recently big took place in my hometown. I saw a lot of weird things, and I'm still seeing weird things come out of there. That she represents the end of times as the Virgin Mother being branded or whatever. I don't delete these people from Facebook because it's pretty freaking weird and entertaining. Another thing to come out of my hometown was the whole geoengineering contrails chemtrails bulls. That got really bad like 2 years ago. Being a chemist and aeronautic nerd that is friends with a lot of pilots and been watching planes my entire life, this one was really hard to see. I got blocked by a lot of people by trying to explain the contrail was, and they have always existed, It's just physics and chemistry that is well known. It was super frustrating because they kept the local government involved in uncovering the poison. It's like, okay, this city is directly under a major international flight path. It sees a lot of high altitude planes, and always has. If you have flown from California to Europe, you have flown over my parents' house. It's just where the flight path is, and there isn't fricking anything around there. Brain control? Why the frick would they spray things at 30,000 feet up over a small crap valley town? Also, if they are spraying directly over the town like these people think they are seeing, any particulate is going to get blown east over Nevada. There are like 20 people that live in Nevada. It just doesn't make any sense to me. These are also anti-vax type people, but the anti-vax movement seems to have died down quite a bit, which is really good. I'm seeing a lot of pro-vax posts now, from some previous anti-vax mothers or whatever. I'm not going to hate on the anti-vax movement a whole lot unless actually arguing with an anti-vaxxer. I actually think it was valid movement in that parents want to know what is being injected into their children. Not understanding vaccines is something that is forgivably not understood. It's complicated. Without a science background, it's really complicated. Crap. I wouldn't want people telling me what to inject in my body, especially when there's mercury and formaldehyde in the injection. That sounds like poison. Yes, it doesn't sound good, but understanding the role of an adjuvant in vaccination and understanding the chemistry of Hg and formaldehyde and the amounts being used is kind of important in understanding the reason for them being in there. Anyways, I tried to educate and I think I have gotten it across to quite a few people, but I've also been blocked for arguing against anti-vaxxers, so there are still a few out there as far as I know. One lady told of me that Obama is a secret Muslim and supported gay marriage so he could later easily identify them, round them up and murder them. I like the Venus plus Serena both had gender modification when they were under 8/9, so they could dominate the female tennis scene. My homophobic grandparents think that Let It Go from Frozen is actually about coming out of the closet. Basically they think Frozen is actually pushing an agenda. That the Pulse nightclub massacre was staged and that the people you saw in the news were actors flown in who'd been spotted at other mass murders. I've met a couple of people who believe that the attempted bombing that led to liquids being banned on flights was actually a conspiracy by the soda industry to drive up sales by forcing us to pay inflated airport prices for drinks. The best part too is I posted this once before on a thread similar to this some time back and was told by a number of commenters that seemed perfectly believable and they couldn't understand why I was trying to claim it was ridiculous. Just in case you needed a reminder of how many idiots there are on this site. That the New England Patriots Super Bowl streak is a conspiracy to bolster patriotism after the 9/11 attacks. This guy I worked with a couple years back believed this. He was convinced Belichick and Brady were in on it. His proof? The Patriots only started winning after 9/11. The conspiracy that the Nelson Mandela effect, creating false memories, like remembering brand names or lyrics wrong, is not a result of crappy memory but actually dimensions overlapping. Many people seriously believe that reality is being altered because they remember Captain Crunch as Captain Crunch. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.